A face, a young face unmarked by experience. An old, richly lived face, etched by experience. A face of beauty, of austere command. A friendly face, a forbidding one. A glamorous face, or a face unknown. Faces are the expression of our identities. They are a mix of features we inherit from our parents. They are shaped by time and the histories of our lives. Who we are is revealed in the landscape of our faces. And in that landscape, no feature is more riveting than the eyes. We are drawn to them, through them, windows to the soul. Portraits of people are among the most compelling of photographs. The best of them capture the soul of their subjects. All of them speak to us in the language of feeling. Like a painter, the portrait photographer seeks to make an interpreted likeness, one that is familiar and at the same time fresh.
I want to do the shot of a close-up. Now, normally I think of pictures as close-up as finding objects or nature, but close-up is very interesting when you investigate people and different environments and play with depth of field. And I want to do a portrait of her, but close-up, almost dangerously close, something that the human eye doesn't get that close to somebody they don't know. And I found this wonderful girl that I loved her hair. I liked the way it flowed. I liked the curls. And I decided I thought it would be very interesting with the hair coming down, glasses on, sometimes with sunglasses, sometimes without, in an old car that had an interesting old mirror. I wanted to play with shapes and design. I put her in the scene with this 1962 Cadillac that I found, brought them both to the beach, and set her up in her as if she had just, I wanted to capture the scene as if she had just driven up to the beach in this car and was overlooking the vista. I really want you to get into the scene as if you know that you're driving a cool car, you know that you're cool looking, and get in and just follow that through. Let me just continue to shoot through. Okay. So set it up, put the camera in close up. I used a 60mm macro lens. And just brought the camera in real close, because when you shoot close up, you have to pay very close attention to all the corners, all the little details, because you're really magnifying a very small area. Okay, driving up, that's it. Okay, right there. See me. Boom. Out. Okay. My phone. Okay. Great. You got it. Again, look up. Up there, yeah. Good. Right there. Hold on. Mail. Really nice to set the camera, let the camera do the work and let me work on the image. Pretty wonderful.
No two people are exactly the same, and in portrait photography, this diversity offers a diversity of approaches.
Wonderful. This is great.
The first decision is to match the style to the subject and the intended use of the picture. A portrait always offers up a version of a person. Which version depends on many factors. Perhaps the most basic decision is formal versus informal. Will the subject be looking at the camera posing, or will the photograph capture them in context, doing something? This fundamental choice in style will determine much regarding technical requirements for the portrait. A formal portrait, where the subject is isolated and looking at the camera, can be intense and compelling.
Come on out in there. A little bit more, a little bit more. Okay, now, I want you to look right at me, okay? Okay, right at me. That's it, that's it, that's it. There you go. Okay, now, I want you to give me the biggest, goofiest grin you could possibly imagine. Ah! Fantastic. Okay, come on over.
An informal portrait can reveal a subject's interests and personality.
Just like that.
For most head and shoulder portraits, the preferred focal length is from 80 to about 150 millimeters. This can be achieved with Nikon lenses such as the 85, 105, or 135, or zoom lenses such as the 70 to 210, 80 to 200, or the 75 to 300. All these lenses give a flattering perspective on a face and a gentle, soft background.
Hi, you guys. How you doing? Yeah, instantly, as soon as I get at this kind of angle, I can see that the picture is much simpler and sweeter if we have a high angle. So let's get a ladder. Now, when we were photographing the hammock picture, I was able to choose a subject that I could isolate from the whole scene. And then beyond that, I could use a zoom lens to further isolate exactly the portion of the picture that was the most pleasing composition. And that's a real advantage when you're shooting from someplace like a ladder, because your movement is restricted. And when you have a zoom lens, you can frame and compose exactly the way you want to without moving an inch.
Oh, honey, you're doing great. That's good. That's good. Very nice.
And I think sometimes people feel that zoom lenses are only to bring you closer to something very far away. In fact, with that hammock shot, I was using a 35 to 80 zoom, which allowed, and a 35 is clearly a wide angle, and it allowed me to at sometimes look at the scene when the child got off the hammock and was on the ground pushing her mom. And in other situations, it allowed me to zero in and use the long part of that zoom, the telephoto part of that zoom, to compose a very tight scene where they were reading together. So a zoom lens can be an asset in lots of situations, particularly when your own movement is very restricted.
Beautiful light is oftentimes the most elusive and most difficult to get on film. So I naturally reach out for these higher end kind of lenses like the 35-70, which is a 2.8, the 80 to 200 2.8, and I'm really excited about the 20 to 35, which is also a 2.8. In a portrait situation, those three lenses would be able to take you from a wide environmental type of a portrait to a very tight close-up that would show the essence of a detail or a character, whatever you're trying to convey that's part of a story. With the boxer we worked with this morning, Terry Sutherland, he's an up-and-coming lightweight, and he just, in addition to a magnificent physique, he also had a really expressive, eloquent face and a real light in his eyes. So in a situation like Gleason's gym where he works out, it's irresistible not to go for the scene, the environment, to capture the old walls, the speed bags, the window light, the dirt on the floor, you know, the kind of grit of a boxer's day-to-day existence. But with Terry, it was irresistible not to come in very tight to his face and get that light in his eyes, get that expressive feel, which you generally don't associate with a boxer. To me, it was very surprising that someone who is that tough physically had that kind and a forgiving a face. So I wanted to try to capture all of that, to go through those paces with him. And the fluidity of movement of a boxer like that, especially a lightweight, is almost balletic, you know, and when you're working that way, you want to be able to match him move for move. You don't want to be constantly interrupting his flow of a workout to step forward and say, wait a second, please, wait a second, please. The lenses, the speed of the lenses, and again, their quietness and the way the new glass is focusing fast, it just all helps you be as unobtrusive as you possibly can and let the subject speak. You don't want to go tramping around like Bigfoot, because you're gonna ruin your moment.
Light is the photographer's paintbrush. How it is applied can dramatically alter the effect of the image. In the studio, a basic lighting setup might be a main light and a less intense fill light or bounced light to fill in shadows. A small backlight adds a halo or highlight.
Actually, why don't we leave this here for a minute and let me look through camera. Great. Okay. Right now there's a pretty good space where he's relatively clean in the frame where he would occupy, but there's a lot of this other stuff happening in the background that I think would work real well. We go flash on camera, one light. Then we fill him and backlight him slightly with this off the wall. So that's set. That's on automatic. Then what I want to do is take that third unit, which is why I need the medium stand, because we don't need a lot of height, and put it right in here, and we'll zoom it to 85. And we'll just come right off of him, right up in here, be a hair light, and kind of bring him out from the background. The 85 zoom will help keep any light from spilling onto this, because I'm a little worried about this heating up. So this position right in here will be off frame. And then that big stand that we have, the final big stand, will go back in here, off camera. And we'll have to move a couple things, but we'll just kind of stick it back in this forest of stuff here and crank it up high and angle it so that we're bouncing off the ceiling, and we get a top light off of this silvery metallic stuff down in here. And that'll be the 4 lights. Could you get into Bill's position there and tell me when this is pitched right? And this will be the hair light for Bill as he's working over in that neighborhood by the sculpture pieces. This will pull him out and delineate his shape. You just go about your work and continue to do what you're doing. The concentration of your eyes and everything and your hands up in this neighborhood is perfect. That's pretty much exactly where I need you to be. There you go. That should be fine, right about in there.
Eyes. The rest of a face is a context for them. We are extraordinarily adept at reading each other's eyes. They are our most eloquent features. In the eyes, we catch the subtle traces of mood, of character, of experience, of emotion. We look at eyes that look at us, and they connect us to that person. When the subject looks directly into the lens, in effect making direct eye contact with the viewer, we share an intimacy with them. An entirely different effect is achieved when the subject looks off camera. This creates more distance between subject and viewer. They seem to be in their own world.
Good.
This makes for a less engaging, less intrusive portrait. We look at the person instead of becoming involved with them. Dialogue becomes observation.
I think any photograph, whether it's a portrait or anything, it has to be, you have to give it a poster-like effect, almost like a poster. It has to be simple, clean, and easily read. 1 or 2 elements, very simple. The simple pictures are the best pictures.
Props can also help reveal character. Props are a step toward a different type of portrait, one where the subject is put into context, an environment which helps flesh out their character. The subject might also be engaged in an activity that is dynamic and revealing.
On my prep day, I was coming up with all these different kinds of shots that I wanted to do, and a lot of times when I work, I go out with an empty palette and I just go to a scene and I let it affect me. There's a clear example where this worked just beautifully. I saw this 10-year-old blonde girl carrying this violin case. She's from Finland. I said, I know there's a picture there. What I wanted was a dark background with her face light and illuminated. So we set up a time, she came back, we raised her up on these two tables so I could get her right in the spot of the mural that I wanted, set up a violin, and actually had her play the violin because I wanted her to animate and for her to feel like she was getting in the shot. For me, I wanted to capture low light and this young girl playing the violin just glowing. So I set up the Nikon f4 with the 80-200. I used the spot meter to measure the amount of light on her face, then focused on her face, locked them both, recomposed my picture, and went ahead and shot. You are so much fun to work with. Okay, now you can change your position just a bit, Satu. Good. Leaning just a little bit, or leaning in right there. And rotate just a bit over to me. Good. I got a tremendous amount out of this situation because I was able to zoom in, capture expressions on her face, and then pull back and capture the whole scene. It was a very good scene for me because I really was able to work it.
The environment can be indoors or out. To show the person in context, use wide-angle lenses. Focal lengths from 20 to 60 millimeters will enable the photographer to include more in the frame, since the face is smaller in this sort of portrait and details are not as apparent.
What we've been doing here is using a 300 millimeter lens, and that really singles them out. And we see just them in the mountain environment. We've taken one tiny little area, but there's a whole different picture here. We're here early in the morning, the light's very warm, and now it's gotten a lot more even as the sun has come up just a little bit. So I'm gonna give up on the 300, and it'd be very easy to get locked into it and to say, this is my shot, and just do this shot. But I'm gonna forget my camera on the tripod and this tight view that's very nice, and walk around with a 20 millimeter lens handheld and try and integrate the whole environment into a picture. I've got streaming clouds up in the blue sky. I've got these giant boulders. We've got the snowy mountains in the background and the warm light. And what I find works for me is not to look at it with my eyes directly, but to walk around, being careful that I don't stumble, and look right through the camera. And just stumble around, sometimes looking like I've lost my wallet, and just see what works. Because through this 20 millimeter lens, the world is very different than it is to my eyes. This is really working for me. What's happening here is all of a sudden there's a whole new picture I didn't see. And the snow mountain is going to draw your attention because it's white. And something that the brightest area in a photograph always draws your eye to it. So that'll be on the right side, and then your eye will see these streaks of cloud and run right across the photograph diagonally. The boulders will be below, and there between the mountain and the streaks of cloud will be the climbers up on top as little tiny figures. So this is really effective. Now I'm going to go up and not leave any ground. It's very easy to have too much foreground in a wide angle shot because a wide angle takes in more than our normal vision does, and the way our eyes work, we normally drop out a lot of information that's here in front of us. We can sit there and look at the people up on the rock, and we're not even aware of the foreground. But with a wide angle lens, the picture's going to look as if it's too much about the foreground. So I'm purposely going to give it more sky, crop the rocks now, and try a whole different way here.
Hey, that's it. Good.
When the subject is engaged in an activity rather than posing, autofocus lenses and motor drives can help get a sequence of sharp pictures that encompass the quickly shifting expressions on a face. Often, the very best portrait is one that only manifests for a fraction of a second.
Hey, right here!
Accurate focus and rapid
That was
firing
great, Frank.
helps ensure that the exact moment is captured on film. Outdoors, open shade works well for even, shadowless lighting. Bright sunlight can be a problem if the subject faces into the sun. Not only will this create harsh shadows, but it will cause squinting. A fill flash, like a dedicated Nikon speedlight, can eliminate harsh shadows. When used with matrix metering, an advanced Nikon speedlight can provide natural lighting in a wide range of conditions, from bright sunlight to backlit sunsets.
The light today is in and out. So when I went out with Katie in the waves and I was photographing at full zoom on that lens, which is 35, I had a pretty general scene with shifting light overhead and also actually shifting reflectance in terms of the foam on the waves. So I went with the matrix so it would encompassate the whole scene. We would take in that entire scene and give me a value back. Because she's running, she's splashing, I'm moving, and I can't be framed so consistently that I know exactly where the center of it is going to be. So I go for an entire matrix.
The reason that you need to use fill flash is that film does not see the same tonal range that the human eye does. And the tonal range is very compressed so that facial shadows that you hardly notice with your eyes will turn almost black on film. And if you don't use some sort of fill light to fill those shadows, then you'll have a face that's half black. And you'll have shadows interrupting subjects that you want to have lit as well as you can see them. So what fill flash does is to give you a picture that looks more the way you really see it when you use it correctly. Here I have a photo that by itself isn't going to work. And when I look at it with my eyes, I see a backpacker here and a beautiful scene behind him. And if I shoot it as a silhouette, which I'm going to do, what's going to happen is that the tree is going to interfere with his silhouette. And when you look at him, you think he looks pretty good. But the tree limb is going to go right through his head, and it's going to be an unacceptable picture. Then when we use fill flash, that's going to isolate him from the tree. And they're going to be so different that the tree's no longer going to interfere with him. Okay, here we go. And now get a little more active pose, like you're really sort of, well, yeah, like more, just like you were, but just a little more tension in your body as if you're actually in the middle of a step rather than relaxing, waiting for the camera to go here. That's it. Good.
In bright sunlight, posing the subject with the back toward the sun will create a glowing backlight around the hair. Here, it is essential to use a center-weighted meter or a spot meter to determine accurate exposure on the face. Though the phrase, "watch the birdie and say cheese," is as old as portrait photography, in fact, a posed smile usually makes for a stiff and unnatural picture. A smile is something that lights a face effortlessly and naturally, like a patch of sunlight on a landscape. A smile can only be held for a few seconds before it seems forced and unnatural. Asking for a toothy grin is asking for a pose that is likely to look mask-like. Instead, ask for a gentle smile, or try to capture one that occurs in the course of conversation with the subject. A smile is a spontaneous thing that shouldn't be forced.
I like it when the smoke comes out like that. Great. Yeah, well. Right into camera, great. Okay, little smoke. Great.
When it comes to shooting portraits, ultimately the most important tool is the photographer's personality.
No holding hands, okay? But I want you guys to race each other, okay? Don't pay any attention to me. A little closer together. Okay, ready? Go! No, no, you're not gonna catch me! You're not gonna catch me! All right, all right. That was a tie. I think we'll have to do it again. Come on.
The best portrait photographers, the masters, engage their subjects in such a way that the essence comes out and is captured on film. Engaging the subject will help make them feel comfortable with having their picture taken. This will result in a more natural image. When the subject feels relaxed, their true personality can express itself in their features, making for a strong portrait.
Yeah, exactly. Not so low on higher, yeah, right
What a great day. It's an incredible scene coming diagonally out towards the lake. Oh, yeah, whoa, 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 whoa! I guess I should have wore shorts.
Taking portraits is easy. Taking great portraits is hard. Just as getting to know a person is hard. And that's what a portrait is, really. It is a record of the connection that was made. When the photographer makes that connection, so does the viewer. The photographer is an ambassador to the sovereign territory of another's soul. People come in all shapes and sizes, temperaments and personalities. The only hard and fast rule to portrait photography is to match the approach and the technique to the subject. While some rules will help create flattering pictures, few will guarantee a compelling portrait. That can only come when photographer and subject have some interaction. The interaction can be brief, a chance encounter with a stranger on the street, or it can be long-term, a photograph of an old friend. The best portraits invite us into another's life. They show us a bit of another person. A portrait records and interprets. In that rendering, that play of shadow and light, gesture and expression, we glimpse another's soul. To learn more about Nikon, look into the complete Nikon School Video Learning Series. All Nikon School videos, including others in the Masters series, are available by calling 1-800-55-NIKON. There's also Nikon World Portfolio magazine. Subscribe by calling 1-800-NIKON-US. And of course, there's the Nikon School itself, a comprehensive audio and visual presentation put on by professional instructors. The Nikon School visits almost all major cities at least once a year. Simply call 516-547-8666 for complete information. We've enjoyed bringing you this special Masters video edition of Nikon School. We hope the information we've presented will help you start making the world's greatest pictures yours.